Hey guys, it's Karl. Welcome back to another desk setup video. You can see behind me, we've got the new Mac Studio and Studio Display running for the past couple weeks in this new minimal setup. I feel that's the common phrase over on YouTube to use. So over these past couple weeks, I've made it my own. I've made some tweaks and hopefully this vid helps you out for your own setups that you guys are making. We'll start off first with the new pieces. Like I said, the Mac Studio. I think it's a bit of overkill, to be honest, for my workflow, for my needs, and I do record in 4K. We're on B-Cam, A-Cam right now, recording in 4K. I am slicing through every bit of my footage like absolute butter, and I am coming from my 16-inch MacBook Pro, which I still think is a bit of overkill for my stuff. If you are grabbing this with the new M1 Ultra, get ready to spend a lot of money, but also get ready for ultra performance. Those two things kind of go hand in hand, and maybe the only sad part now, using the M1 Ultra, using the new Mac Studio, going to anything else seems slow, seems a bit sluggish. So I am pretty lucky to be able to test this out from Apple. Would I spend that kind of money on a computer? Probably not. I would still recommend though the M1 Mac Studio, a bit of a tongue twister, $2,500 versus the $5,000 M1 Ultra. If you're in the market for a desktop Mac setup, I would though, I created a video around the different displays because you still have to buy extra peripherals if you are getting a Mac Studio or even a Mac Mini. Check out that vid. The iMac, the 24-incher, which came out last year, I know it's only running the M1 chip, the OG M1 chip, still brings some awesome value. You still get a decent display, 4.5K. You have a fully operating OS, whereas if you are grabbing a Mac Studio, as we'll get to, you still have to buy extra accessories. You still have to buy a display, which is a great leeway into the Studio display. Is it worth it? Maybe, could be. It's the display I would get from Apple. So you have the two different options, obviously the Studio display and the Pro Display XDR, which is, once again, triple the price. I wouldn't even look at that unless your company is paying for it. The Studio display is the one that I think most people will look at. It's dope, it's great. I wish it had 120 hertz. It's still stuck at 60. The build quality is beautiful. It's something that you'd expect from Apple. If you do end up grabbing one, I still prefer the nano texture, which I have. That's the matte display finish, especially with all these massive windows. I have the glare coming through this way. It's just a lifesaver with the matte display. I think there are better value options. I think you can spend your money in wiser ways, but it's not a bad display. It's great. It actually has a really decent speaker, so it does have surround sound. I don't even have any external speakers or any studio monitors attached to this setup behind me. And even with the great design, the great build quality, it still has a chunky bezel, which I think Apple is kind of known for also. It does have the new front-facing camera with the new ultra-wide camera for, of course, center stage to keep you in frame. I'd still rather have thinner bezels. I'd still rather have a 120 hertz display. I'd still rather have a couple extra I/O ports. The saving grace for the Mac Studio, at least there is a SD card slot at the front, which I love, but somehow I have scratched my $5,000 Mac Studio. I've scratched the aluminum. I think I did that sticking an SD card in. I don't think my nails are sharp. I don't think I scratched it that way, but that's a shame. Do you have to protect your Mac Studio? I don't know. The last thing about my Studio display, because I didn't get the little riser, which is $400 for an extra piece of aluminum, I just have a simple monitor riser from Ergon. They're actually this really dope company based out of Canada that not only makes desks, they make great desk accessories. So if you want to include that in your build, instead of spending $400, I think you can get the riser for around 60 to 80 bucks. Natural wood, I think it fits into that setup, and it just gives you some extra breathing room for the height, because the last thing that you want to do is spend 400 bucks for a stand from Apple, even though they charge $1,000 for their Pro Display XDR one, and rant. So yeah, those are the main components of the setup, and I would say 27 inches is kind of the sweet spot for a display. I know a lot of people say it's 32. I think if you are focused on productivity and want to get into the zone of what you're working in, most of my workflow revolves around Final Cut, editing photos. I think that 27-inch mark is great. So yeah, that is the new Apple stuff. The peripherals around it. So I've actually been using this little guy a lot. This is the Remarkable 2 tablet. And I think a lot of you know that have watched any of my vids, I'm a huge stationery fan, and I love to jot down notes, not only for the videos that I create, but for my to-do list, for my architect meetings, for pretty much anything. I think there's this interesting stat, writing things down lets you remember things X amount of percent more than if you were typing them. I think that's why in school people still recommend writing down notes is actually better for your brain than typing them out. So for whatever reason, I am stuck with writing notes. It's something that I've just kind of grown up doing, and it's something that I still do every single day. So with this remarkable tablet, this kind of replaces the OG pen and paper, still gives me a digital feel, but still gives me that analog feel of writing down notes. And it does come with this nice little leather sleeve in this saddle brown finish. So this is a 10.3 inch e-ink based tablet, and it's actually the world's thinnest tablet at 4.7 millimeters. It actually mimics the size of a regular piece of paper or a notebook, and it has the rigidity that you can still jot down notes using one hand. And the great thing about Remarkable, once you've jotted down all these notes, if you want to switch this into typed text and say continue that over on your computer, you can do that with a simple tap of a button. You can choose from a bunch of different pen points, of course, change the thickness of the stroke, and in all, it's just a very simple note-taking tool that gives you that OG feel of writing down notes. And another great benefit of e-ink is the latency is almost instantaneous. And another great use for this Remarkable tablet, I've been taking this to a ton of my architect meetings. I think a lot of you know that new house build is in progress. So a lot of the PDF documents that I get for reviewing spec sheets, for reviewing overall builds, you have to sign those. I can just have a handy signature waiting for it ready, and I can send that off to a specific vendor. For example, my windows, which I just purchased, super expensive, signed off with my Remarkable tablet. So overall, just a great little handy tech tool for those of you that are still a bit OG, still love to jot down notes. It does have 2-week battery life, which is great. It does charge via USB-C. So if you're interested, you can grab your own Remarkable. I'll leave a link down below in the description, and you can pick one up yourself. So underneath the studio display and monitor riser, we have this little handy desk tray from Grovemade, which is where a lot of other accessories come from also. In here, I actually like to put my Remarkable pen. I actually have my Grovemade stationary pen here to kind of prove how much of a stationary geek I have. In this thing, you can pretty much put the accessories that float around your desk just to keep things a bit more organized. So I have a task knife for unboxing all of my stuff, a classic USB stick, I don't think I use that too much, a hard drive, some controls actually for my aperture light, little Sony remote to start recording all of my cameras wirelessly. Obviously, we've got to have some bits of Lego, so my Lego dudes for all of my desk setups, and for every tech reviewer, you got to have just SIM card slot tools. This one, I'm going to rant about this for a second. A Dragon Ball Z SIM card slot tool from Realme. So anyone that flakes me for not having any orange in my setup, this is my little orange fix. We also have a pair of headphones, which we'll get to in a second. But this phone, if you missed my unboxing, super dope. I was a huge Dragon Ball Z fan growing up, so this is living as part of the collection, as part of my memorabilia. But this little desk tray, super handy just to keep things nice and organized. To the rest of the actual devices that I use, I talked about a smartphone, so I usually have the ones that I'm testing out. So currently on deck, we have the iPhone SE. This is, of course, Apple's budget or entry-level device, and it's always a bit refreshing to go back to a phone with Touch ID. What I would love if they actually came out with a Touch ID phone with updated bezels. I know that you have to have a large bezel on the bottom, but if they just made the top a bit more modern, if they had a small little cutout for all the different sensors with the little notch, I think that would sell pretty well, but that's just a little fan request. And of course, my Android phone that I'm testing out, we spoke about Realme. This is their new GT2 Pro, which I know this came out during MWC. Missed out on the unboxing because I was so busy in Barcelona, so we'll actually do a live unboxing right now. We'll take my task knife, cut. So this device I remember seeing, actually we've got some of the specs on here. You can see it's got a 2K display, it's got paper tech design. We'll have to get to that in a second. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 platform, obviously that's the latest silicon running from Snapdragon, and a 50 megapixel main, 50 megapixel dual camera. So of course that's the main, the wide, and the ultra wide. That is pretty clean looking. So interestingly enough, this is the world's first phone with a back made out of a biodegradable polymer, and Realme claims this actually mimics paper, which it does have that feeling. So I think that looks really cool. It feels even more interesting. It'll be interesting, I'm using that word a lot, to see how this fares over time. Will this collect a lot of dirt like paper would? Will I get this smudged up with my nasty fingerprints? But cool to see Realme getting into the environment game. Switching to some peripherals a bit more, and maybe some things that I need to do a bit more of. Here's this dope little water bottle. So this is a water bottle from Lark, and my New Year's resolution this year was to drink more water. So in every one of my setups, every time that I travel around with my tech travel packs, anytime I go from home to the studio, I bring a reusable water bottle. I try to stay away from plastic. This is, I don't know if it's the world's first, but it is one of the coolest water bottles. I think I saw Lark on Shark Tank. I don't know if it was for this exact bottle, but cool to see an actual product from Shark Tank in person. All of the tech actually lives right in this cap here. So typically you fill this up to drink. All you have to do is, once you plug this in, set that up to charge, and then you just need to press down on the top of the water bottle and it will begin a cleaning cycle. And this will clean your water up to 99.999, kind of repeating in terms of, I guess, purity.
And that's what I call high quality H2O. Oh!
That's of course 99.99% of bacteria, and I think a lot of you will already say water is already pure. I drink tap water every single day, but I am usually a sucker for not cleaning my water bottle. And as you use a reusable water bottle over time, bits of your saliva get into the bottle, bacteria builds up everywhere. Just having something that I don't need to think about because it auto cleans every 2 hours, and one charge on this will last an entire month. Maybe the only thing I would say for their next iteration, if they could just switch that up top to USB-C. That's just me being nitpicky, but I think drinking water is something that a lot of people strive for. It's something that, yeah, it's just being healthy in general. I know that you should just drink a lot of water every single day. So this helps out a ton. Just having this sitting on my desk is just always that visual indicator saying, Karl, drink more water. Taking this around in my backpack every single day, even when I'm on location on shoots or I'm shooting somewhere else. Just having this guy in my bag helps me drink water, and just because it was my New Year's resolution, it is something that I try to do. Drink more water, people. Stay healthy. And to round off the rest of the accessories and to end off this vid, you can see they are pretty minimal. I will give Apple credit for their keyboards. I'm a huge fan of typing on their Magic keyboards, mainly because it's the same typing experience from my MacBook Pro. So I will say I stuck to the one that came with my Mac Studio. Of course, the good old trackpad that now comes in black, that's a new addition. But the thing that I always have to switch out is their Magic Mouse, which I think is just absolute trash. Switch to an MX Master 3, never go back. I would recommend to Apple, buy Logitech as a company. I don't know how many billions of dollars that sale would be, just to get the design for this mouse. It's so good, I swear by it, and I won't switch this out until the MX Master 4 comes. Enough for peripherals. And the last piece, I think some of you might have seen this teased over on social. So this is a pair of AirPod Maxes or AirPods Max in a custom orange colorway from Colorware. I had two different models, the matte orange and the glossy. Even though the sound or the speakers over on the studio display are pretty decent, sometimes I just want to dial in. Sometimes Nick is being too loud editing over there.
Loud noises!
Just want to tune them out. The noise canceling AirPod Maxes, these are just straight up dope, just because they're orange. So if you didn't know, Colorware is a company that custom makes or custom colors your tech. Sadly, we are all still waiting for a custom colorway of orange on AirPods, on even say an iPhone, but Colorware can enable that by just creating your own custom color of your I guess, dreams. Of course, I got mine in orange, so you can see glossy. The finishing on it is like Apple created it themselves, and so many people have asked about these in person. I think they honestly kind of look like a pair of earmuffs, maybe even safety goggles, but I think they look pretty cool. Let me know what you think about those, and of course, all the other peripherals, all the other stuff associated with a desk setup. Of course, we've got little bits of Lego, which I haven't touched on. Those are just to make it look unique. Hope you guys enjoyed this vid, and I'll catch the rest of you in one of my next ones. Peace!